So far, we knew about static rendering as well as dynamic rendering. But Next.js 15 has introduced yet another rendering method, which is partial pre rendering. Partial pre rendering might be the future of building your apps with Next.js. So, why pick when you can get the best of both worlds? Static as well as dynamic rendering, or incremental static regeneration and server side rendering combined in one. So, in this specific video, I will be walking you through how you can implement partial pre rendering in a full stack e commerce application using NeonDB, server actions, and a lot more. So, you will learn everything that you need to know about partial pre rendering in this specific video and how it's different from all the other different rendering strategies as well. So, let's dive in. Let's quickly take a look at the app that we are building. It's called as Pixel Perfect. It lists a bunch of high quality products. Now, we can see a shopping cart here. Right now, it's empty, but we also see a list of products in our inventory. Over here, we have wireless headphones, smartwatch, and so on. We are pulling this specific information from the database itself. We have the add to cart functionality. But before we take a look at that, we are using NeonDB as our database of choice. It's a serverless Postgres database. It's designed to help you build applications and scale faster. It's really good. If you look at the pricing section, you get half a gig of storage 24/7 for your main database, community support, and a lot more. Again, what I really love about NeonDB and a lot of these solutions that are coming up out there right now is that unless you are ready to launch your application or you want to scale them as an organization, is when they are adding the paid tier. But by default, it's just $0 per month, and you can use the free tier without any credit card requirement. So, as a developer, you can really play around with the database and really try out whatever you like, which is pretty awesome. Plus, you can also use branch based Postgres, which means that you can essentially use different branches for your application, and you can branch your database into further branches as well, which is pretty awesome. Plus, it's a serverless database as well. Now, this is pretty cool. So, that's what we will be using for our app here. So, if we go ahead and log in using Google or whatever you like, I already have a project called as Next.js Workshop. Now, if you're interested in signing up to a workshop that I host quite regularly, then check out nextjsworkshop.dev. Now, let's go to the database called as YouTube. If we head over to tables, this gives you more of a visual overview of what's in your database. With YouTube as a database, there are two different tables here, cart and products. Right now, we have a bunch of different products such as wireless headphones, smartwatch, Bluetooth speaker, which is exactly what we see over here. At the same time, every product has a name, a price, a image URL, and every single image URL is actually being pulled from Unsplash, which is a really great source for pulling high quality visuals for your application. So the URL of that is what we are storing here. This specific ID essentially auto increments. Now, let's say we were to add our products to cart, we create a anonymous user ID for that specific project, because right now you cannot necessarily log in, but you can still create an anonymous user ID, and then we add that specific product to the specific cart. So now let's go ahead and try it out. So if we head over to add to cart, you can see wireless headphones got added. So if we go to Neon Console and hit refresh, you can now see there's a user ID with auto incremented ID and also a product ID along with quantity, plus the created ad date, which they already made us available. I didn't need to create it, which is pretty cool. Now, if we take a look at product ID 1, which is essentially the wireless headphones that we added. Similarly, if I were to add another wireless headphones, then we head over to cart, the quantity is now 2. We can also go and add anything else we want to, such as mechanical keyboard, it got added. If we go to our database and hit refresh, there's a product ID 6 that got added for the same user as well. And that is how the user sees all the information in their shopping cart. Now, if we were to go to the browser developer tools, head over to application, inside of cookies is where we store the user specific information, such as user ID. So, this is the application that we will be using to learn partial pre rendering. If you have been loving all my Next.js content on the channel, then definitely check out my upcoming premium Next.js course. This course will teach you everything that you need to know to build production ready Next.js applications. And we will be walking you through different versions and supporting Pages Router as well as App Router. It is a truly comprehensive course that I'm building. So if you are interested, then definitely check out the link in the description below to basically sign up to the waitlist. I will be running an early access, which means you will be able to access content as it's available as I record it, which also means you are going to get a really hefty discount. So definitely sign up to the waitlist if you're interested in learning Next.js from me. Further in, as you can see in the comment section, I'm really active and available for you. So if you get this specific premium course, then I will be even more available in the community to help you level up your Next.js skills. So definitely check out the premium course that I'm working on, and I'm so excited to help you level. So what is partial pre-rendering? Partial pre-rendering is essentially an optimization that combines static and dynamic rendering. So because it combines it, it's not fair for us to talk about partial pre-rendering without truly understanding dynamic and static rendering. So let's take a look at a diagram. We have a bunch of diagrams here to really understand and dive deep on what each of these rendering methods do. So, what exactly is static rendering? Well, whenever you have any static content on the page, Next.js offers something called as pre-rendering, also known as static rendering. You might have also heard of static site generation. All of these are different ways to pre-render the content on the server. So, for example, let's say you have a fully static site. That means there is no dynamic content onto the page, and if you opt into static site generation, then Next.js is essentially going to store and pre download that information at build time, store it on CDN, and whenever anyone accesses your application, then it's going to go to the closest CDN and fetch all that data. Now, a good example for this is my blog, now, or any blog rather. So, if we go to a blog, we have a list of blog posts. This is a perfect example of static site because, again, there's nothing dynamic here. We show the same site to everyone. So, all this content is pre downloaded, which is exactly what you're looking for. So, if you take a look at our diagram, that's what static rendering is. It pre-downloads the data, caches it forever. So the first load of the page is really fast. So whenever any bot tries to crawl your page, then the content is there available. So it's good for SEO as well. If we take a look at dynamic rendering, it means that you have some dynamic content on the page. So, for instance, let's say in this case, all the data points were static. So, for example, let's say this is the root component, and all of these are different components on the page. The fact that you have said this specific page is static, everything else is going to be static onto this page, and static rendering is something you opt into on a per page basis. Now, with dynamic rendering, let's say you have dynamic content here, here, and here. Now, blue is static content and green is dynamic content. In dynamic rendering, what would happen is that again, on a per page basis. If there are some elements on your page which are dynamic, so for example, if we take a look at this specific blog post, right now it is fully static, but then we have this heart icon where you can increment the count as you like as well. You can also open this up in Core Sandbox and try it out if you want to, but this is what makes the content dynamic. We have static content, but we also have dynamic content. So if you have any upvotes or any ability to add comments, all that would make the content dynamic. At the same time, what would also make dynamic content is also, let's say, when you're using fetch, your caching policy is cache no store in the app router, which means that you're saying, I want to opt into server side rendering specifically. Then in that case, it is going to be dynamically rendered because it's a dynamic page. We need fresh data from the server, or if you're using cookies or headers and so on as well. So, dynamic rendering is what Next.js would opt into if you have some dynamic content on the page. That's what dynamic rendering is. But partial pre rendering is essentially the best of both worlds. What I mean by that is, let's say again, a similar diagram. We have the root component, but then let's say all the blues are static content, and there's this one green node which is dynamic content. And these are different components on the page. Now, this specific dynamic content is maybe uses cookies, headers, fetch policy is cache no store, or something like that that makes this specific component dynamic. Now, with dynamic rendering, it wouldn't matter if only this specific node is dynamic. The fact that it's a dynamic content, this entire route is going to be dynamic because it uses some specific information that cannot be done statically. It needs dynamic content for that. It needs some user specific information. So this makes the route dynamic. But with partial pre-rendering, what you could do is you could basically opt into partial pre-rendering because it's not yet ready for production yet. So it's experimental still, so you might experience some bugs too. But when you opt into partial pre-rendering, what Next.js is going to do is again, it will build the static parts of the page and store it on a CDN. So for example, all the blue nodes are static, so they will automatically get pre-rendered. So when bots come to crawl your pages, then the static content will be readily available for the bots, so it will be good for SEO. The first page load will also be really fast because that's a metric that Google really cares for, or even search engines care for when they try to serve your site for SEO reasons as well. On top of that, there are performance benefits too because the first load is really fast, and that's what users care for. But then, because there are dynamic pieces to your page as well, what Next.js is gonna do, it's gonna delegate that to a server, which is gonna perform a server operation, and then it's going to fill in the missing content, which is supposed to be dynamic, with dynamic content. The static content will automatically be there, but then let's say this content is dynamic and this content is dynamic, then the server, once it's done downloading the data, then it's going to show the dynamic content. Well, now you might be wondering, this is great and all, but why do we need partial pre-rendering? Well, that's because this way you don't have to specifically opt into a specific rendering mechanism. You can just set PPR to be true, and that would essentially mean that Next.js is going to do its magic in the background and delegate it to the server to fetch dynamic content. And when it's available, that's when things will show onto the page. So that's pretty nice because users don't have to wait for static content. They will still see something on the page, and when it gets available, then it will automatically get replaced. Now we will take a look at implementation in a bit, but this is how partial pre-rendering. So why partial pre-rendering? Well, to reiterate the explanation, earlier it was a binary choice. You could either opt into static rendering or you could opt into dynamic rendering. Rendering on the server or rendering at compile or build time. Whenever you had any static content on the page, the whole page would get pre-rendered during build time and stored on CDN. As soon as you had the small bit of dynamic content on the page, that automatically meant that the page won't get pre-rendered, but rather rendered every time on the server on every request. So what if we could isolate that dynamic behavior to specific component without impacting the entire tree? And with partial, so the static parts of the page are essentially delivered just like how incremental static regeneration does it, and the dynamic parts get rendered on the server or sent over whenever it's done. Even if your server is really slow, that's fine because the user is still seeing something on the page because the static parts are essentially being sent to the user and user is seeing something. Now, earlier, if you had dynamic content on the page and your server was really slow, or let's say you're using a serverless function and that specific serverless function, it has a cold start and it's taking a long time to start the server to spin up something and perform that specific operation, then in that case, partial pre-rendering helps a lot because the browser or the bot is not waiting until the content is downloaded. So overall, this makes our app really fast. So in partial pre-rendering, what we need to do is identify aspects of the page, parts of the page that need to be dynamic, and then fill that with a UI of some sort that we'll take a look at. Now let's take a look at the code of this application, Pixel Perfect. Now I have already implemented partial pre-rendering in this specific application, but let me quickly walk you through the code. Now we have the app directory, which has a page.tsx file. Now, in order for us to implement partial pre-rendering, we need to go to the next config file and add experimental PPR is incremental. Now, this means that we are incrementally adopting partial pre-rendering. In order for us to enable partial pre-rendering, we need to export a constant experimental underscore PPR equals true, which sets the partial pre-rendering to true. This means that partial pre-rendering is enabled for the specific page. Now that partial pre-rendering is enabled, let's take a look at an example. Now you will not see much difference on a development server, but you'll definitely see in production. So let's just build our application for production. The minute we build our application for production, what it's going to do, it's going to lint and check the validity of types, generating the static pages. But once it's done, notice how the home page has this half moon icon. That's because that is half static and half dynamic, which is what partial pre-rendering icon is. Pre-rendered as static and HTML was dynamic server streamed content. Now that our application is built, let's go ahead and start the application. Now, if we head over to localhost 3000, it's still fast because it's Next.js and we are using the latest and greatest. So let's just go to our developer tools network tab and enable slow 3G because it's really fast. We need to really simulate this, let's say when the server is slow and so on. So for example, so now let's refresh the page. It's still not giving us exactly the loading UI that we have. It's because it's filling the static content readily. So what we're going to do is we are going to use something called as the mock API. Now this specific mock API basically gives us as many products as we want. So we can get as many products as we want over here. Let's just change our code a bit here. So now if we go to our application, the way our code is structured, in the home page, we have the banner component. Then we have the shopping cart and the product list. We'll come to suspense in a second. Now, the next thing on the page is the product list, which is essentially this specific section, the list of products. Now, this is the component we render for rendering the product list. Over here, we get data from the products table, which is located over here. So we have the products table. This is where we are fetching all the product data. Now, we are going to loop through all the different products and then also show it onto the page. Now, towards the bottom, we also have another component called as add to cart button. So if you go to the add to cart button, this is in fact a client component, and that's because we are using client functionality. So anytime we have a handler, so for example, something that we need to use the browser functionality for, it has interactivity, then that component needs to be a client component. This specific button has a on click handler, which again, if it doesn't have a user ID, it's going to create one. So it's going to get the user ID. If it doesn't have a user ID, it's going to create one. And then it's also going to set the cookie inside of our browser as well that we saw earlier. So for example, if we head over to application and go to cookies, this is what it sets whenever a user clicks on add to cart and if they don't have a user ID yet. So if you go to the add to cart button over here, it's going to generate the user ID. Now, there's one more functionality here which is called as add to cart. Now, this specific add to cart is in fact a server action. We are awaiting the store cart data. If we click on store cart data, then it has use server on top, which makes this whole thing a server action. So, for example, here we are initializing the Neon database. We are checking if the record exists in the cart for a specific info for that specific product. So for example, when you click on add to cart, this specific function will get triggered. So we execute the SQL query to check if that specific product exists. If it exists, we just want to increment the count. If it does not exist, then we insert a new record. And towards the bottom, we also want to make sure that we're telling Next.js that, hey, I know we have new data, just purge the cache, which is what would happen. It would purge the cache, and then we will see a new product automatically added inside of shopping cart. That's exactly how server action works. But you can see how seamless it is to also integrate the Neon database as well, as we saw here, because we are writing SQL queries right within our server action code. Now, this is great. We generated a user ID and we add to cart. If we head over to the page file, in order for us to implement partial pre-rendering, yes, we definitely have to set experimental PPR to true, but in the meanwhile, until the dynamic content loads, we need to show the user some fallback UI, something that the user can see as they are waiting around. So that is when we are going to use a suspense boundary. So what exactly is suspense? Now, this suspense is a React concept which Next.js also uses internally for partial pre-rendering. It lets you display a fallback UI until its children have finished loading. Because we know the shopping cart has dynamic functionality, product list also has dynamic functionality, we have wrapped it around a suspense boundary, which comes from React directly. So we have the suspense boundary, and we are in the meanwhile showing a loading skeleton. We have the product list skeleton as well as a cart skeleton that we are showing. Now, here's the thing, our app, thanks to our database Neon, is pretty fast. Our Next.js application is really fast. So, we really need to simulate a behavior that will cause a delay. So, for that, what we're going to do is we are going to change our API a little bit. So, if we head over to our product list component, over here, I have another function that essentially uses with delay function. Now, this is a custom function that I have created where it wraps it with the promise and it uses set timeout, which will simulate a delay. Let's just comment this out, or let's just add underscore get data. So this is what underscore get data is. We can also call this get mock data, for example, just to make it even more verbose. That's exactly what we are calling here. With delay, we are intentionally delaying the response to simulate a slow data request. And this specific URL has all the information. Now, as I showed you earlier, this specific mock API will create a bunch of random products that we could use. We could change the number to increase or decrement the count, and that's how many products it would return us. So, we are also intentionally disabling Next.js cache to better demo streaming as well, as I talked about earlier. Here, we are basically saying, hey, this is a dynamic page. So, by doing this as well. Then we are saying delayed by 5000 milliseconds. All right, so now it's going to return the get mock data that we will show on the page. All right, so now what we're going to do is, again, stop our application now that we have replaced it, and let's just go ahead and build our application. So let's just build it, and it's going to create an optimized production build. Do the same thing. Let's just fix this type where it is a product type. Now let's just run the build, and let's see. It's going to collect the page data. It's supposed to again partial pre-render, which is exactly what we have here. And now let's just start our server. We have started the server. Now, if we go to and refresh the page, we see a fallback UI because our request is slow. But meanwhile, if you notice, the top data was already available. So let's do it one more time. If I refresh the page, the data that's supposed to be available, it's there, but the dynamic content was fetched later on. And that is exactly the power of partial pre-rendering. We can implement a fallback UI using suspense, and Next.js is going to stream the dynamic content later when it's readily available for us. So here's what you need to do. In order for you to implement partial pre-rendering in your application, first, make sure to only use this in non-production apps because it's still experimental, so your app can break. So keep that in mind as you implement partial pre-rendering. But in order for you to use it, set the PPR to be true inside of our Next.js application. Next file, as I talked about earlier, set the page to be incremental and slowly opt into partial pre-rendering to see the magic of it. And then what you need to do is identify parts of the application that are dynamic so that you can add a suspense boundary around it so that there's a fallback UI that you could show. So wrap your code in a suspense boundary. And that is it. That is all you need to do to implement partial pre-rendering in your application. That is all for this specific video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are interested, then definitely check out the Todoist clone that I have built that basically will walk you through everything that you need to know about in Next.js. Or if you're new to Next.js, then check out the specific crash course that will give you a in-depth understanding of Next.js and a lot of the concepts that we use in production. So I hope you have a lovely day. Bye for now.